Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, merrily, merrily. What the? 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 game, no doubt. Very sad. This is a 3-year-old bug, almost 4 years old. Hasn't been fixed yet. This river, your boat always ends up in the air like this. Hasn't been fixed, and we're getting an ARK 2. Welcome to the video. Lots of salt here, but not salt only. But we are going to point out the simple fact that ARK 2's coming up pretty soon. And when I say soon, probably 2 to 3 years. But we still have so many bugs in the base game of ARK. And I saw a lot of comments on Twitter, and this is like the theme right now. It's almost like bots during the election. They're like, oh, well, they can't fix the bugs in ARK 1 because the engine's at its limit. And, you know, I don't know if they're talking about the architecture of the game or if they're talking about Unreal Engine 4. I don't know, because when it comes to like an infinite reload bug, I don't see how you can't fix that in any game engine. I mean, for God's sakes, we've had reloads in games for 20 years, so why do we still have the infinite reload bug that's been out since the beginning? But anyway, yeah, I wasn't really impressed by this trailer. I mean, granted, I think it's pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. I think it's neat, and an ARK 2 was inevitable. Whether you love ARK, you hate ARK, the simple fact is, from a revenue standpoint, ARK makes a ton of money. The game ARK itself, not the studio, because their other games are pretty bad in terms of generating revenue. But ARK itself has made a ton of money. I mean, look at it. It got a port for Switch, and it like barely runs on Switch. It got a VR like spin-off. It's not even the same game, but it got a spin-off for VR. It's on mobile. It's like on every platform. And let me show you something real quick here. So this is a screenshot from Steam, and this is today, which is Saturday the 11th of December. Just a regular old Saturday. 58,500 people on Steam alone. That is a lot of people. Look at your favorite games on Steam. That's a lot. And I've heard, from what I've heard, the Xbox community is bigger than the Steam community. So at a minimum, that's 100,000 plus PS4 community, which is huge. So like 100, maybe 150 to 200,000 people are playing this game today on a regular old Saturday during the day. So like I said, it's a huge, huge game. And it's funny that the community, I mean, if you just look at the response from the community, it's mostly negative, and they talk about how buggy ARK 1 is. And that's true. I mean, ARK 1 from a technical standpoint, it's a very buggy game. I mean, seriously, the join lag, like the blue screening on consoles, the ability not to turn down the graphics even further on consoles to maybe save some resources and not blue screen or lag or frame as much. But on top of that, just all the different types of bugs, including the infinite reload glitch, the hit marker glitch, where you won't get a hit marker on a creature, but you'll get blood splatter. It's like, okay, so you're recognizing that I'm hitting it, but you're not giving me a hit marker. It wastes your resources. Sometimes it could put you in a bad situation. And while the developers have probably learned and gotten better at, you know, troubleshooting some of these things, let's look at the Genesis pack. I mean, first of all, to play Gen 1, you have to buy the entire season pass. And I don't know how it is on other platforms, but on PlayStation 4, people get stuck in DC loops constantly on that map, where they'll try to log in, it'll start to act like it's loading the server, and then it'll DC them, and the only way that they can get out of that loop is if someone kills them from the tribe. If you're solo or there's no one on to help you, good luck. I mean, your base is getting meat ran. And Genesis itself is just, it's like a map you love to hate. I mean, there's a lot of redeeming factors about Genesis. You know, the fact that you have a store at your disposal, you run missions, you have points, you can buy things out of the store, like for raising meat, you can buy loot crates, you can buy cementing paste. I mean, some really useful things. But on the flip side, the performance is awful. I mean, the Genesis server I play on, it's an NA server. I live in North America. There's not really any super beefy bases on the map. There's not a bunch of dinos out. You know, the dinos are cryoed. But the join lag is like crazy. And then people get stuck in these DC loops, and they're constantly trying to join, and they're stuck in this DC loop and constantly creating join lag. It's just a bad map from a technical standpoint. And that's ARK's biggest problem, is from a technical perspective, it's a very bad game. And I don't mean that in a whole, because obviously I've put probably over 10,000 hours into the game. I play ARK every day. I love ARK, but I am willing to admit that it is a very broken game. And to the people's point who are saying, you're giving us now, it's like, you're giving us an ARK 2, and ARK 1 is very broken still. And so it's obvious that the way that they're financing ARK 2 is from the revenue of ARK 1. I mean, let's look at that Steam clip again. Look at how much money this game costs just to play the entire game. At least on Steam, it's like almost $100 just to play the game in its entirety. And, you know, obviously from the beginning of ARK, Studio Wildcard, in conjunction with the other studios that they collaborated with, probably not a really big pocketbook to spend on the game. You know, probably a very small budget that's grown over time. But, you know, now it's like they're... And they've already kind of started this thing with the voice acting. They have some pretty big voice actors in Genesis 2. Now they've got Vin Diesel doing we don't know the extent of it, but is he just going to be in the cinematic trailer? Is there like some sort of story element to it? Is he going to be guiding us? Is he like the new Rockwell? What's the deal on that? But we have Vin Diesel, who I don't really have a problem with Vin Diesel. I like the Fast and the Furious movies. I've heard that Vin Diesel's a bit of a... butthead in real life, trying to spare the language there, but it's just a really weird thing to me. By the way, they have confirmed that it is going to be multiplayer, so I think it is just going to be what we have now, but they're going to take all the lessons they've learned and make a new game, make it better, maybe change some things, but yeah, really interesting, because a game that is already very buggy. Now we're getting a brand new game that looks like it's going to probably run even worse. But what's also interesting is that some people act shocked when they saw this ARK 2 at the Game Awards. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? They've been saying, hey, we got a huge announcement at the Game Awards. Huge, biggest announcement ever. What's bigger than obviously they've said that this is Genesis 2 is the last story expansion, the last paid DLC for ARK 1. That's kind of a hint there. They've got like pretty big voice actors playing the main characters in there. What's bigger than that announcement? ARK 2. I mean, I think it was a no-brainer. You shouldn't have been shocked when they said that ARK 2 was going to be, they announced ARK 2. But yeah, really interesting. Probably keep an eye on Twitter. A lot of salty people. I don't really care either way. I do think it's kind of messed up that they didn't reinvest money into the game we have already, because obviously the majority of the people developing for this game are working towards net new content that's going to generate revenue, not fixing old, it's like, hey, this passes certification. We have like a handful of people working to, fix past problems, but we know we need the majority of our staff working towards future content that we can generate revenue for. And that just goes back to the whole conversation we had a few months ago about why they have such a hard time fixing these bugs and getting things right. The list goes on. Look at Genesis. Let's circle back on Genesis. Gen 1 is the most expensive map we have right now because, of course, you need to buy the season pass, which is, I think, $35 US, maybe even $40, I'm not sure. But this is like the newest map, everything they've learned from years of developing for ARK and every other game that they have. And on the official network, you can't even do some of the missions because you'll either blue screen or like the lag between the areas that it's trying to render. For example, you can't do any of the races in the ocean biome on hard on the official network. You can't do it. Maybe on a PS5, not on a PS4 or a PS4 Pro. I have a PS4 Pro with an SSD installed in it, installed in the hard drive slot. I have a hardwire 200 megabit internet. Can't do it. Can't do it on hard anymore. Just ever since they changed the times, it's just like the amount of time that you lose between those rendering areas, and the clock is still ticking because it's not on your system's time, it's on the server time. So once you come out of those render, you lose 4 or 5 seconds. That happens to you 6 or 7 times, and you've lost the race because it's already a close race. Anyway, that's kind of going off on a rant, but it just goes to show how broken the game is. And you know, a lot of people will say, well, why don't you play on dedicated? We have an official network that's what, when you buy the game, you buy it to play on the official network. Yes, dedicated is an option, and I'm not saying anything bad about it, but dedicated, you have to pay extra money to play that. You can't just buy the game and play dedicated. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe you can hop on someone else's dedicated that they're paying for. But no, it's $1 a person is what those servers go for. You have a server that, you know, 30 players, you know, on the monthly cycle, it's like $30 or something. But anyway, I hope them, you know, I wish them the best. ARK 2 probably way down the pike. So, you know, if you're trying to kill all your tames or whatever, I probably say don't do that. Because it's going to be a hot minute before ARK 2 comes out. You know, I think they said 2022, or I'd have to recircle back on it. But Wildcard, when it comes to ARK, they have never held true to a date. And people are like, well, that's just an estimation. Yeah, I mean, you could say that. Gen 1 was supposed to come out in December of 2019. That didn't happen. And Gen 2, I believe, was supposed to come out. And, I mean, you know, those are placeholder dates. But even when they announce a date, you can look at all the modded maps that came out on official. Those have always gotten pushed back. The actual, I think the official launch date got pushed back of ARK. But, yeah, they never meet a deadline, pretty much. Yeah, well, and, you know, I said a lot of bad things. And, you know, they're people just like us, trying to do their job, trying to make ends meet. I do think that the game is very poorly managed. There is some very talented people, some very good people. We have a great community manager. Cedric, I think, is the true redeeming kind of face of the game because he's so good with the community. But I think that the game is mismanaged quite a bit, and I think that the money that is generated is probably mismanaged quite a bit too. And I think the vision of the game is mismanaged. But anyway, I hope the best for ARK 2. Let me know what you guys think. Keep the salt up. You know, ARK, definitely one of the most toxic player communities in gaming, but something we've come to live with. Share your salt below. What do you think? And of course, there will always be people who will defend Wildcard to the grave and people who will hate Wildcard to the grave regardless. And that's it. This is me wishing the best for Studio Wildcard. Please like, subscribe, and until next time, thanks for watching.